ABC7 Eyewitness News presents Vote 2018, the debate in the race for Illinois governor. Here is our moderator, ABC7's Alan Krzyzewski.
Good evening to you and welcome to the debate in the race for Illinois governor. This debate is produced by ABC7 in conjunction with the League of Women Voters of Illinois and Univision Chicago. This debate is also being distributed to television and radio stations across the state in a cooperative effort with the Illinois Broadcasters Association. Now, to participate in this evening's debate, the candidates had to meet 5 criteria. This criteria is set by the League of Women Voters of Illinois Education Fund, and here are those criteria. The candidates must be legally qualified to hold office. They must have publicly announced an intention to run for office. Candidates must be eligible under all applicable laws. They must be qualified to be on the ballot, and they needed to receive at least 10% of support in one or more statewide nonpartisan public opinion polls within the past 30 days. So, with that in mind, tonight's participants are Republican incumbent Governor Bruce Rauner and Democratic challenger JB Pritzker. And joining me tonight to ask questions this evening are ABC7 political reporter Craig Wall and Univision Chicago anchor Erica Maldonado. So here are the ground rules. We have some of them for this debate tonight. The candidates will each have 1 minute to answer our questions this evening, and the candidate who answers first will then get a chance for a 30-second rebuttal. Each candidate will also have the opportunity to ask a question of their opponent, and they will then have the opportunity for a rebuttal. The order of the first question tonight was predetermined by a random draw, and the first question is for Governor Bruce Rauner, and it comes from Craig Wall. Craig.
Governor Rauner, recently released emails show that your office delayed in the reporting of the Legionnaires' deaths at the Quincy Veterans Home in 2015. Now Lisa Madigan, the Attorney General, has launched a criminal investigation. Was there a deliberate attempt by your administration to hide what was happening at Quincy?
Absolutely not. Our team did everything they could to make sure that our veterans were kept safe and their health care was protected. As soon as the Legionella infection was determined, we took action to notify residents, notify staff, and begin the process of protecting the veterans by treating the water, bringing in national experts from the Center for Disease Control, and implementing their recommendations. It's important to remember that this particular bacteria is not infectious, it is not contagious, it does not pass from one person to another. It is not about notifying a community or a region or a neighborhood. This is very specific to buildings and plumbing, and we took action immediately to protect our veterans and our staff.
Why was there a delay in reporting it to the public and to the families?
The team determined the right time. We needed to get all the facts, make sure that there was no panic or inappropriate misinformation put out. And again, what our focus was protecting our veterans, protecting our staff, and that's what we try to do every day in that home.
Mr. Pritzker, as tragic as these veterans' deaths were, how does the delay in reporting it a few days put the blame on Governor Rauner? And the Illinois GOP is now saying that this is a partisan investigation by a Democrat Attorney General. Should someone else handle this investigation?
Well, this was a cover-up all along. Remember that Governor Rauner knew about this, his administration knew about it. Days went by without notifying people. People got sick as a result of that. But remember, 3 years also went by before the governor acted to do something to protect these veterans. Now, my father was a Navy veteran, my grandfather a Navy veteran. I believe that we need to stand up for those who defend our nation. And the way to do that is to make sure that they're safe, and especially when they're under the care of the governor and the government of the state of Illinois. That didn't happen under Governor Rauner. He failed. For 3 years, he failed to protect them. 14 people died after the first death. 13 other people died, family members of the veterans and the veterans themselves. It's just wrong. 70 people got sick. We need to stand up for those veterans, and he's failed to do that.
Governor, a chance to rebuttal.
Mr. Pritzker, shame on you for politicizing the health challenges of our veterans. Our veterans are our heroes. They deserve our utmost support, and you are politicizing this process for your own personal gain. We have fought for our veterans in our administration every day. My entire life, I've been an advocate for our veterans, supporting them through countless organizations and efforts, and our team did everything they could to protect our veterans in that home, treating the water, following all the experts' advice every day, immediately upon the discovery of the problems.
Apparently
and now
not.
we've taken it to the next level. We are replacing the entire facility, the entire
Thank you, Governor.
as the next step to protect them.
Thank you, Governor. The next question coming from Erica Maldonado, and Mr. Pritzker will answer first.
Mr. Pritzker, you propose, can you please explain to the viewers how could Cook County Inspector General reach a conclusion in the report that actually you enter in a scheme to defraud, and how do you defend the decision to take out toilets out of your property for tax concessions?
Well, we followed the rules, but let's step back here for a moment and recognize that this was an internal memo that was leaked for political purposes about problems in the assessor's office. I've said for some time now that there are real flaws in our property tax system, but as it pertains to me, there was nothing new in this report. I've said all along this was a renovation project that was underway. It was halted because it was unclear whether the home would be sold or put up for rent, and then subsequently that project restarted and all the taxes that were assessed on that property were paid. But let's step back for a second and recognize this is how Governor Rauner distracts from his own record. He took 22 property tax reassessments.
That's not true, Mr. Pritzker. That's a lie.
Homestead exemptions.
Not true.
And then he proposed raising property taxes by $1 billion. That's what he stands for, and that's what he's trying to distract from.
You stated that you're going to return the $330,000. Isn't that kind of accepting that there was something wrong done in the meantime?
No, listen, we're in the last 34 days of a campaign, and I don't want to distract from us talking about the real issues affecting working families across the state of Illinois. That's why I repaid that.
Governor?
This election is about the future of Illinois and two critical issues, taxes and corruption. Mr. Pritzker has now been exposed for the truth. The reality is a Democrat, not partisan, a Democrat in the Cook County government has issued a finding after an investigation that Mr. Pritzker has engaged in a scheme to defraud taxpayers of this state. It is wrong, it is corrupt, it is self-dealing. And his report indicates that it may well involve criminal behavior of tax fraud, mail fraud, and perjury. This is the fundamental self-dealing that's rotted our state at its core. It's what's destroying our communities. This self-dealing has to end. Mr. Pritzker owes us all an apology for what he's done.
Mr. Pritzker, I need to jump in here too as well, because this report seems to indicate that it's not only for a time period that the toilets were not in the structure, but also for a time period where the toilets were actually physically there and then a refund was sought for. I'll ask you to rebut to that too.
No, again, we sought a reassessment of the property just like 50,000 other people in Cook County
it's
do.
It's nothing like what other people do. That's false.
Governor, may I finish? Thank you. Look, you could see that Governor Rauner is trying to distract from his own failures as governor. And let me remind you what those are. 736 days without a budget in this state.
With your supermajority, Madigan,
of a backlog
supermajority could have passed anybody budget they wanted.
The taxpayers are having to pay in late fees because of his mismanagement. 8 credit downgrades for the state. 5 universities fell to junk credit status because of him, and he's the biggest deficit spender in the history of the state of Illinois. He's distracting from his own failures.
Thank you, Mr. Pritzker. And we will get to many of these issues a little bit as we go along here. We are now going to turn now to the issue of taxes, and I know that the two of you have some very different ideas as to how the state should get revenue, and for that matter, who should pay for it as well. So, Governor Rauner, I'm going to start with you. Your plan specifically, the legislature, of course, overrode your veto. We now have a 4.95% income tax flat rate. But in our state that wallows in red ink, what would you do to bring it into balance? And specifically, what would you cut if you can't raise taxes?
So the only answer, the only real solution to balanced budgets and to a better future for our people is to grow our economy faster than our government spending. We have had a broken system for decades under Mr. Pritzker's ally, Mr. Madigan. Deficit spending, constant tax hikes, and job losses with countless businesses moving out of the state. We need to change that by bringing down the tax burden, rolling back the income tax rate, reducing property taxes by getting unfunded mandate relief, relieving the regulations on our businesses so we can grow our economy faster. That's the only way to keep balanced budgets, and you can look at New Jersey to know that that's true.
You believe you can roll back and balance at the same time in this state?
Absolutely. We can slowly roll it back. Won't happen overnight. It'll take several years to do, but every year we can prove to job creators that we are actually making progress. We're changing our system. We cannot think that only raising taxes will balance our budget. It never will.
Mr. Pritzker, what do you think of this plan?
Well, remember that Governor Rauner spent every dime of the tax change that occurred last year. But he's defending the most unfair income tax system in the nation. That's what Illinois has.
I pay my income taxes. You don't even pay yours.
People at the bottom are paying 13 and 11%, and people at the top are paying about half of that. That's what people are paying in the state of Illinois because of the high property taxes, sales taxes, and the flat income tax system. That's why we need a fair tax system to lower property taxes and lower income taxes on the middle class and those striving to get there. That's our goal. We need a fair tax system that also will help us balance the budget and pay for our schools. Governor Rauner doesn't want to do anything about it because he benefits from it. I believe that standing up for working families is the right way to go. That's why I've proposed a fair tax system.
And Governor, your rebuttal, I want to ask you, are there other areas you'd have to cut other than the income tax rate?
Alan, the critical issue here is that Mr. Pritzker is advocating for tax hikes on the people of Illinois, everyone in the state, while he has been cheating on his taxes. It's already been established by the Cook County Inspector General. He has cheated on his property taxes in a scheme to defraud, possibly criminal behavior. He has also inherited billions of dollars, kept it offshore, so he does not pay his income taxes in America or Illinois. He has cheated on his taxes, and yet he wants to raise the taxes on the working people of his state. This is what's wrong in Illinois. He represents everything that's broken in Illinois.
Just not telling the truth.
All right, thank you. We're going to get a chance to get into the other side of this as well in a little bit deeper here, because the next question is to Mr. Pritzker from Craig Wall.
Mr. Pritzker, you said repeatedly the state needs a graduated income tax, and you used the term fair, although that's so nebulous that could mean anything. Don't you believe the voters deserve to know how much you intend to raise taxes and what those rates would be, and who is the middle class?
Well, again, we're trying to fix a system that Governor Rauner is defending.
What would your rates be, sir?
Very unfair for people in the middle class and those striving to get there. Look, the vast majority of states in the United States have a graduated income tax system. So does the federal government. I believe that we ought to work out what those rates are with the legislature, Republicans at the table too. Even those who may oppose a progressive income tax system should be at the table to help us work it out. But here's what I know. Bruce Rauner and I are not in the middle class, and that we ought to make sure that those who are wealthy in this
pay my
state
taxes, you
should
don't.
step up to the plate. You are hiding money in the Cayman Islands. You moved money abroad. That is what you did. So I really believe that this is about standing up for the working families of Illinois and asking those who can most afford it to step up to the plate.
But what kind of rates would you be requiring with people? You would have a supermajority in the House, in all likelihood a supermajority in the Senate. If the blue wave goes through, you could push through whatever you wanted. The people should know, shouldn't they? What kind of rates?
Well, once again, it's got to be negotiated with the legislature. You think that we all agree on everything. That's not necessarily true. Here's the thing. We need to make sure that we're growing jobs in the state of Illinois, and that's why giving the middle class a break is so important. They're the ones who are living paycheck to paycheck. They're the ones who, if you put some dollars back in their pocket, they'll be able to spend it. It will help the economy of the state of Illinois and help small businesses in Illinois.
What's the income of the middle class by your classification?
Well, again, I want to be clear that the middle class and those striving to get there have not gotten a break ever in the state. This is the unfair tax system that Bruce Rauner is defending, and those rates are going to be negotiated. The break points and income levels will be negotiated with the legislature and with Republicans at the table.
Governor Rauner, what's your response? Why is the graduated income tax a bad idea?
It's a green light to raise taxes on everyone. The reason Mr. Pritzker doesn't want to answer the question is because he knows it's going to crush the middle class. He doesn't want to admit it before the election.
That's just not
in
true.
Every state that's put in a graduated income tax, every state, the middle class has paid more after the tax hike than before. And if you look around the country, New Jersey, Connecticut, New York, Minnesota, look around the states that have a graduated income tax, the middle class, people making $40,000 are paying 6%, 7%, 8%. They'll get crushed by Mr. Pritzker. My plan is to grow the economy. I've been endorsed by every job creator organization in the state. They do not endorse him because they know they'll crush businesses under his plan, and we'll have a flood of businesses leaving if he becomes governor.
Governor Rauner said that he wants to cut taxes by $1 billion, but you know what? He spent every dime of the tax increase, and then he proposed raising property taxes by $1 billion.
I mean, that's hogwash.
He has lied all along here. The fact of the matter is that we will lower taxes for the middle class and those striving to get there, and make sure that people like Bruce Rauner and me and those who are wealthy in the state step up and pay a little bit more.
Even if some states that have graduated taxes have rates as high as nearly 10%?
No, look, we've got to make sure that we're competitive with the states around us. Remember, most states around Illinois have a graduated income tax system, a fair tax system. We can be competitive. In fact, States that have a graduated income tax system are doing much better in job creation, much better in paying for their pensions than Illinois is doing under Bruce Rauner and the unfair tax system that he's defending.
Thank you, Mr. Pritzker. All right, our next question goes to Governor Rauner first. It comes from Erica.
Governor, you and your opponent have spent around $200 million in your respective campaigns. As multimillionaires, your lifestyle is surely different than the average voter in Illinois. How can people be sure that you really understand their needs and their social and economical problems?
I didn't inherit any money. My grandparents lived in a double-wide trailer. I was a middle-class kid. I wasn't in poverty, but we weren't wealthy. I worked my way through school. I've had real jobs in my life, which Mr. Pritzker has never had. I never inherited a nickel. And I've worked for teachers and law enforcement officers my entire career, investing their pension money, doing extraordinarily well for them so they could have a better retirement. And I've honored them with hard work, and they deserve our support. I am advocating for every family in this state to get higher incomes, more jobs, better future for our children and our grandchildren. I know exactly what it's like to work the way up in our society. Mr. Pritzker has inherited billions, and he's cheated, hiding it offshore, almost all the billions offshore, unpatriotic, cheated on his property taxes, used racist language to describe our black community and elected officials, calling them offensive, and tried to buy political office from Rod Blagojevich. He represents everything that's wrong in the state of Illinois and will destroy our future.
Mr. Pritzker.
Look, I've spent my life standing up for working families, and I've worked hard to help expand the school breakfast program in the state of Illinois to 230,000 more kids, to make sure that thousands more kids get quality preschool and quality child care. And I've also created jobs, thousands and thousands of jobs in the state of Illinois. Governor Rauner, in his business, he fired people to make money, to get a better profit. The truth is that people have been abused under Governor Rauner. He doesn't really understand what it is to stand up for working families in the state. I believe in our workers and our ability to get ahead, to make sure that we're standing up for them. I've proposed programs that I believe will help Illinois advance.
Governor Rauner.
Mr. Pritzker has falsely claimed he's tried to work for the middle class. He has hurt the middle class. Mr. Pritzker owns businesses. He took an inherited wealth, owns businesses. He owns a company that's that he's trying to decertify the union in. He says he's pro-union jobs. He's trying to decertify the union.
That's not true.
He owns a cruise company. That is a fact. He owns a cruise company in the Bahamas that he has blocked the efforts to unionize that company.
That's not true.
His family turned on heat lamps in the summertime in the heat when the Hyatt hotels were being struck. And he owns a company personally that has violated pollution emission controls in California and dumped toxic waste in rivers in Georgia. He is hurting people.
A lot of talk about money here, of course. Suffice it to say, both of you are gentlemen who have considerable wealth. But in this race that could break records in terms of campaign spending, much of it your own money. My question is this, and I'm starting with Mr. Pritzker here. Have politics become, in a sense, the rich person's sport, perhaps even to the detriment of our democracy, where only the wealthy can lead? And if so, what changes would you back in campaign finance reform?
Look, I've supported candidates across the board over many years, people who could not afford to fund their own campaigns because we share the same values about what it is to be a Democrat, standing up for working families, making sure we're lowering the cost of education and health care, making sure we're creating jobs and raising wages. That's what I've been all about. Look, Bruce Rauner has not done that during the course of his either business career or as governor of the state of Illinois. He's not standing up for working families. Now, I believe that with all the money that gets spent in politics, that in this race, Illinois is worth it. To wrest control of this state from Bruce Rauner and the Koch brothers right-wing network and their desire to lower wages for working families in the state, it's worth it.
But for those who do not have high net worth, are they shut out of this election system, the ability to become a worthwhile candidate merely because they don't have the funding to make this happen?
You know, we used to have campaign finance laws that were in place in the United States, but then it was a conservative court that overturned those laws. And now we've got Citizens United in effect. There are unlimited, no caps on these things. It was Governor Bruce Rauner that put $50 million into his own account in December of 2016 to run for office and took $20 million more from the wealthiest man in the state of Illinois because he wanted to scare everybody out of the race.
Thank you, Mr.
I don't
Pritzker.
think that's right.
Governor, the same question to you, and I'll add it, and we'll come back around too. Would you be willing to say, I'll put a voluntary cap on this? You can't this time around, but what would you say?
Alan, the good news in America is voters are smart. They figure things out, and the good news is you can look around the country. The candidate that spends the most doesn't always win. And in fact, it's often just the opposite. I am being challenged by an individual who inherited billions, has never had a real job in his life, has cheated the tax system to dodge taxes, may well come under criminal investigation. He is trying to buy political office. He's trying to buy the governorship to be something for the first time in his life, because if he wasn't a trust fund baby, he would be nothing. And you know what? He tried to buy political office by donating to Rod Blagojevich, fundraising for Rod Blagojevich, and then trying to talk him into giving him the Senate seat or the treasurer's, and he was caught on FBI wiretap trying to do that.
Do you believe, though, that individuals who do not have high net worth are being shut out of the process?
I believe that we should have freedom of speech, freedom of political affiliation, competitive general elections, and we need to get the truth out to the people of Illinois. I'm being challenged by someone who's outspending me 3-to-1 with his inherited billions, running hundreds of millions of false attacks.
Let's all remember that Governor Rauner outspent his prior opponent by 2-to-1. Let's also say we need campaign finance reform in the state of Illinois. We need to have it now. We've got to fight for it on the federal level to make sure the laws get changed on the federal level. But we can make changes in the state of Illinois. We can have some public financing for offices in the state of Illinois when people raise small dollar contributions.
Can Illinois afford to do that? Do we have the money to do
it? And remember, it's when people are raising small dollar contributions for some offices in the state of Illinois, I think that's the right thing to do. But we've got to change the federal law. We've got to make sure we change the state law so that we're standing up for everyone who wants to run for public office.
Thanks, Mr. Pritzker. All right.
Hey, if you like that video, be sure to subscribe to our ABC7 Chicago YouTube channel.